board was set, the pieces lined up, and the world waited with bated breath. On one side, the American prodigy, a misunderstood genius. On the other, the Soviet chess machine, relentless and apparently invincible. The year was 1972, and the IAA stage was Reykjavik, Iceland. But this wasn't just another chess match. It was the showdown that would define an era, a duel that would transcend the 64-square board and become a symbol of the Cold War. At the center of this maelstrom was Bobby Fischer, the enigmatic prodigy who would challenge not only his opponents but also his own inner demons. Born in Chicago in 1943, Robert James Fischer demonstrated an extraordinary aptitude for chess from an early age. At age 6, when most children are still learning to tie their shoelaces, Bobby was already delving into the intricacies of the game that would become his lifelong obsession. His sister Joan bought him a chess set, and young Bobby was immediately fascinated. Hours turned into days and days into weeks as he devoured chess books, studied moves and strategies with an intensity that bordered on mania. At the age of 13, Fischer was already a force to be reckoned with in the chess world. In a match that would become known as the match of the century, he defeated international master Donald Byrne in a game so brilliant it left spectators awestruck. With audacious moves and calculated sacrifices, Fischer demonstrated an understanding of the game that was far beyond his years. It was at this moment that the chess world realized it was witnessing the birth of a legend. But Fischer's path to the top would not be easy. Chess, especially during the Cold War, was more than just a game. It was a battle of ideologies, a way for the capitalist and communist blocs to measure strength without resorting to weapons. And in this scenario, the Soviet Union reigned supreme. Since 1948, all world chess champions had been Soviet. The Soviet system mass-produced players, training them from childhood in an almost scientific approach to the game. Fischer, on the other hand, was a lone wolf. Self-taught and intensely individualistic, he represented everything the Soviet system was not. While the Soviet players worked as a team, analyzing matches and developing strategies collectively, Fischer spent hours alone, immersed in books and boards, perfecting his game with an almost monastic dedication. As Fischer rose through the ranks of world chess, his eccentric and often difficult personality began to manifest itself. He was known for making extravagant demands before tournaments, from specific demands about lighting to the type of chair he would sit on. Many saw this as the whims of a rising star, but for Fischer, it was a matter of control. In a game where the smallest detail can make the difference between victory and defeat, he would leave nothing to chance. In 1972, Fischer finally got the chance to challenge the world champion, Boris Spassky of the Soviet Union. The match of the century, as it became known, was not just a series of chess matches. It was a clash of personalities, styles, and in many ways, political systems. Fischer, the individualistic and unpredictable American, against Spassky, the polished product of the Soviet chess machine. The match started in tumultuous fashion. Fischer, dissatisfied with the playing conditions, did not appear for the first match, losing it due to absence. Many thought the confrontation would be over before it even started, but Fischer returned. And what followed was one of the most exciting series in chess history. With a mix of tactical brilliance and deep strategy, Fischer dismantled Spassky's game. His victories were not just defeats for Spassky, they were blows to the very pride of the Soviet system. After 21 electrifying games, Fischer emerged victorious, becoming the 11th world chess champion and the first American to win the title. The chess world was ecstatic. Fischer had done the impossible, breaking Soviet rule and bringing the crown to the West. In the United States, he became a national hero overnight. His victory was celebrated as a triumph of American individualism over Soviet collectivism, but Fischer's glory would be ephemeral. The years following his victory were marked by controversy and seclusion. In 1975, when he was supposed to defend his title against Anatoly Karpov, Fischer refused to play, citing disagreements with the match rules. As a result, he was stripped of his title without even playing a match. The genius who had conquered the chess world now retreated into the shadows. Fischer disappeared from public view, becoming an almost mythical figure. Rumors about his whereabouts and mental state were constantly circulating. Some said he was living like a hermit, others that he had joined a religious sect. The truth, as always with Fischer, was complex and multifaceted. During his years of seclusion, Fischer developed increasingly extreme and controversial views. He made anti-Semitic statements despite his own Jewish heritage, and expressed political views that many found disturbing. The chess genius, who had once been celebrated as an American hero, now became a polarizing and controversial figure. In 1992, Fischer briefly re-emerged for an unofficial rematch against Boris Spassky in Yugoslavia. The match was a shadow of the epic clash of 1972. Fischer, although still showing flashes of his past brilliance, was clearly rusty. More worryingly, the match violated international sanctions against Yugoslavia, leading the US government to issue an arrest warrant for Fischer. From that moment on, Fischer became an international fugitive. He traveled the world, always one step ahead of American authorities. He spent time in Japan, the Philippines, and finally found refuge in Iceland, the country that had been the scene of his greatest triumph decades before. The tragedy of Bobby Fischer is that his genius on the chessboard did not translate into balance in real life. He battled inner demons that not even his brilliant intellect could defeat. Paranoia, conspiracy theories, and a growing sense of alienation consumed him. The man who had once conquered the chess world with his mind now seemed lost in a maze of his own creation. But it would be unfair to reduce Fischer's life to just his controversies and eccentricities. His impact on the world of chess was profound and lasting. He revolutionized the way the game was studied and played. His book, My 60 Memorable Games, is considered a classic of chess literature, studied by players to this day. His meticulous approach and relentless pursuit of perfection on the board have inspired generations of players. Fischer was also responsible for bringing chess into the mainstream. Before him, chess was seen mainly as a pastime for intellectuals, or a game played by old gentlemen in parks. Fischer, with his rebellious charisma and aggressive playing style, made chess sexy. Suddenly, it was cool to be a chess player. Chess clubs proliferated across the United States, and interest in the game reached unprecedented levels. Furthermore, Fischer was an innovator not only in the game, but also in the conditions under which it was played. Their demands for better prize money and more professional playing conditions helped elevate chess's status as a serious sport. The Fischer clock, an innovation that adds a small increment of time after each move, is used in tournaments to this day, ensuring more dynamic and exciting matches. The story of Bobby Fischer is in many ways a modern Greek tragedy, a genius blessed with extraordinary talent but tormented by inner demons that eventually consumed him. His meteoric rise and subsequent fall serve as a powerful reminder of the fragility of human genius and the dangers of losing one's genius. Fischer passed away in 2008 in Iceland at the age of 64, one for each square on the chessboard he had so completely mastered. His death marked the end of an era in chess, but his legacy lives on. Today, computer programs can beat the best human players, but none of them capture the imagination like Fischer did. His unique combination of brilliance, charisma, and tragedy makes him an unforgettable figure in the history of chess and sport in general. What can we learn from the life of Bobby Fischer? Perhaps it's a reminder of the importance of balance. Fischer dedicated his life to the pursuit of chess perfection, but this obsessive pursuit ended up costing him dearly in terms of personal relationships and mental health. His story reminds us that no matter how brilliant we may be in a specific field, it is crucial to maintain a broader perspective and nurture other aspects of our lives. Another lesson we can learn is about the nature of genius. Fischer showed that true genius is often accompanied by eccentricities and challenges. Her story invites us to reflect on how we can, as a society, better support and nurture exceptional minds, helping them to flourish without getting lost in their own mental labyrinths. Fischer's life also raises questions about the intersection of sport, politics, and national identity. During the Cold War, he became a symbol of American pride, but his later actions complicated that narrative. His story reminds us that sports icons are, after all, complex human beings, not mere symbols to be exalted or demonized. For the chess world, Fischer's legacy is undeniable. He raised the level of the game, inspired countless players, and helped popularize chess globally. Even decades after his retirement, his games continue to be studied and admired. His style of play, characterized by relentless precision and an iron will to win, continues to influence grandmasters today. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Fischer's legacy is the mystery that surrounds him. Despite all the biographies, documentaries, and analyses, he remains in many ways an enigma. What was really going on in the mind of this misunderstood genius? What led him to walk away from the game he loved so passionately? These questions continue to intrigue chess enthusiasts and psychologists alike. As time passes, the legend of Bobby Fischer continues to grow. For some, he is the greatest chess player who ever lived. For others, it is a tragic symbol of the price of genius, but to all he remains a fascinating figure, a reminder of the power of the human mind and the mysteries it holds. As the world of chess continues to evolve, with computers now capable of defeating even the best human players, the era of Fischer seems increasingly distant. However, there is something about his story that continues to resonate. Maybe it's the purity of his dedication to the game, or the tragedy of his decline. Or perhaps it's simply the fact that, in a world increasingly dominated by machines, Fischer's story reminds us of the power and fragility of human genius. As new generations of chess players emerge, inspired by Fischer's feats and determined to surpass his records, his shadow continues to loom over the board. Every audacious move, every brilliant sacrifice, every surprising victory carries an echo of Fischer's spirit. And so, Bobby Fischer's legacy continues to unfold like a particularly complex and fascinating game of chess. Each new analysis, each new perspective adds a layer to our understanding of this enigmatic genius. And like a great chess match, the ending remains uncertain, full of intriguing possibilities. As the world continues to turn and new battles are fought on chessboards around the globe, Bobby Fischer's story stands as a testament to the power of the human intellect, the relentless pursuit of excellence, and the dangers of losing oneself in that pursuit. He reminds us that in the great game of life, just as in chess, every move counts, every decision has consequences, and that even the most brilliant among us are, in the end, deeply human. As we reflect on the life and legacy of Bobby Fischer, we are invited to consider our own lives, our own pursuits of excellence, and the balance we seek between our passions and our humanity. And perhaps, in this reflection, we can find our own way to play the game of life with the same intensity, brilliance, and hopefully a little more poise than the legendary Bobby Fischer.